Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another showing of the Atheist Experience. I'm your host, Ashley Perrian, and our co-host this week, Karen Glasser.
Karen Glasser, nice to see you all again.
Welcome back.
It's hard to believe it's been a month since the last time I was on.
Yeah, we're cycling through pretty quickly. It seems like a lot less. Anyway, again, this is the Atheist Experience. We're being hosted by, sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We have weekly meetings every Sunday at Crescent City Beignets, which is on 6th Street, a couple blocks west of Lamar. That is every Sunday starting at around 11:30 or so and going on until it closes, basically, well, until we leave. Typically around, I think, about 1 o'clock or thereabouts.
Until they kick us out.
I don't think they actually do kick us out. I've never stayed quite that long, but I think people start leaving around about 1 o'clock or so. But it's a whole bunch of us just sitting around talking, chatting, just having a good old time. It's a very informal meeting. It's open to any atheist and atheist-friendly people. It is not open to people who come and proselytize to us and try and convert us or debate us or anything like that. But like I say, if you're atheist-friendly, please come on down and meet some of us. You do not have to be a member of the group to attend that meeting. That is every Sunday. On the third Sunday of every month, though, we have our lecture series at the Austin History Center on 9th and Guadalupe. This month, that is on the 20th, I believe. Yes, that's on the 20th of June. And we're not going to be having a lecture this month. We're going to be talking about, I believe, the CFI and the Center for Inquiry. They're considering coming down to Austin and building a center down here, or at least in Texas. And we're kind of discussing what the ACA is going to have to do with that, if anything. So if you're a member of the group, we would love for you to come down and give your opinions on that. If you're not a member and you're somehow, you know about the CFI, you're a member of their group, or you're just, again, atheist-friendly and you have some input and discussion, please come down and like I say, we can get your opinions in there too. So again, that is the 20th, June 20th. That we're doing that at Austin History Center, 9th and Guadalupe. Other regular things that we do every Monday night, we have Godless Gamers at the house of Russell Glasser. That is every Monday night starting at 7 o'clock. We play board games, card games, all that kind of stuff. And that goes on typically around about 10:30, 11 o'clock. If you go to our website, atheist-community.org, and write to the webmaster, they can give you more details on that one. Also, every Thursday night, we have Atheist Happy Hour at Antonio's Tex-Mex on the southbound feeder of I-35, just a couple blocks south of 183. Sorry. Blanking out here. Also, another regular thing we do, the nonprofits. Every other Saturday, it's our internet audio show. It's hosted on atheistnetwork.com, and it's a streaming MP3. Hosted by Jeff D. Producer is Russell Glasser, who also chimes in quite a bit. And the co-host right now is Dennis Loubet. That is every other Saturday on atheistnetwork.com. They just had a show yesterday, and so the next one will be on June 19th, in 2 weeks from yesterday. All right, that is it for our normal announcements. We've got a couple things to go over quickly, but we don't have a typical lecture or speaker or anything like that on the show today. We're just going to be going to calls pretty quickly, so we can go ahead and put that phone number up now. Again, we are live today. It is Sunday, June 6th. And again, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything for us, go ahead and give us a call, and we'll get you on the air. One of the things, though, that we are doing today, as the Atheist Community of Austin, is we had a table and we're working a booth at the Gay Pride Festival. This is something that happens, I think it's the first Sunday of June every year. So we've done this for the last couple of years now, and it's going on today, I think, until like 6 o'clock or something like that, or thereabouts.
Yeah, 6 o'clock.
Okay. And so that's what we're doing today. Now, I believe that you actually went down there for a little bit.
I went down there for about an hour. They said, hey, come on down. Maybe they'll recognize you as a local celebrity. That didn't really happen.
Unfortunately.
They said, maybe they'll think you're a beautiful lesbian. Callers, am I gay or not? You decide. Just kidding. Anyway. So I went down there for a little bit. It was a very, very big event. Cars, parking was terrible. But that's a good sign because that means that there were a lot of people there. Big event, big park, lots of different booths.
Where actually was it again?
It was pretty near here. It was down on Comal and like First Street area.
Okay.
Past First Street on Holly, about that.
Okay.
Huh?
Fiesta Gardens. Yeah.
It was at Fiesta Gardens. The event was pretty big. It was a lot of fun. There were some wonderful performers. They had this I don't know, drag show with a medley of 60s music that I've also seen at the AIDS Walk every year. And then they had this amazing band with a fiddle player and a pianist and a drummer, and they were just incredible. And we had our booth out. We had a lot of great bumper stickers. I would just like to say a few words about why we have a booth out there. We've kind of, one of the major functions of the atheist community is political activism. We like to get involved in issues that we think are important primarily in terms of atheist issues, and one of the issues involved today was the separation of church and state. And the reason separation of church and state is involved is, when George Bush is trying to pass his amendment, and other politicians in government in the past and in the future, to make gay marriage illegal, really, if you ask anybody why gay marriage is wrong, it usually springs from two causes, either an ick factor or some religious cause, something that's religiously wrong with gay marriage, gay relationships. And since as atheists we believe that it's absolutely wrong to use religion or ick factor as a way of passing public policy, we thought that this Gay Pride Festival was really, really important. So we showed up and we had a booth in order to support it.
Yeah. We had big discussions about this a couple months back with the ACA just wanted to pass a resolution just saying that we support gay marriage and such. We had a big discussion about that, being that this, while not directly considered an atheist issue, gay marriage and gay rights and such, it's not directly atheist related. Most of the arguments are atheism or religiously based in some way. And so that's our main issue with it. It's not so much that gays should have the right to marriage or they shouldn't. It's just that most of the arguments against it are religiously based, or as you said, the ick factor. Neither of which really makes all that much sense to us. There are a lot of things that I don't consider all that. Again, I'm not gay, and so I don't consider it all that attractive. But just because I'm not gay doesn't mean that somebody else shouldn't have the right to do whatever they want, and assuming they're not hurting anybody else, obviously. So.
And if you can make a case to say that gay people are hurting anybody else, you can make a case to say that any person in any relationship is hurting anybody else. I had a conversation with someone that I know the other day where I started talking to her about this, and sometimes it just sort of surprises me that people still think that gay people shouldn't have rights, or that anybody shouldn't have the same rights as anybody else. Yeah. I think I live in a very sheltered universe where I'm surrounded by liberals and atheists and free thinkers and progressive people in Austin, Texas, and social work realms, and democratic societies, whatever circle I might be in, it surprises me that people still think that way. Yeah. And so I had gotten this conversation with a woman, and she's like, I was saying, well, the reason I don't want to vote for George Bush, one of the big reasons is because he's going to pass an amendment to illegalize gay marriage, and that's just evil and wrong. And she's like, why would gay people want to get married to each other? They shouldn't be allowed to do that. They shouldn't have, they shouldn't have the right to do that. I'm like, why not? She said, because
End of sentence.
End of sentence. And so I said, they're human too. And this is the fundamental basic thing.
Yeah.
People think that atheists shouldn't have the right because they're less than human because they don't believe in God. Or gay people shouldn't have the same rights as everybody else because they're less than human because they like to get mixed up with people who are the same gender as them, or that, black people, women, Democrats, children, whatever. It sometimes baffles me that we still live in a world where we don't accept everybody on the planet as human beings and therefore give them all the same rights based on the fact that they're all human beings, unless, of course, they have done something wrong, like committed a very bad crime.
If you have a reason to have your rights taken away, then you have a reason to take away the rights.
Exactly. But, I guess Christians believe that if you're homosexual, you have a reason to have your rights taken away, and that's because you're sinning against God. And that, in my mind, is just not something you can pass a public policy on in a state where the Constitution says, we will have no laws.
And in addition to that, it's
about a separation of church and state.
It's simply the fact that unless you can prove that there is a detrimental consequence to having this, going to hell or something like that, unless you can prove that there is a problem there, then we can't have any reasons to say that it should be illegal. We have, rules and laws against drug use, for instance, because we have demonstrable reasons that they can be bad for society. People disagree with that. We're not going to get into that whole discussion here, but whether you like it or not, there are reasons that we outlaw drugs, and so therefore we have rules against them. Killing people is bad. We know about that. We have demonstrable reasons why, therefore it's illegal. People sleeping with people of the same sex and getting married and having relationships with people of the same sex, we don't have a really good reason or really good anything that shows that that's bad for society or bad for people. So until we come up with that good reason, I can't see taking away that right. Because there are a lot of things that, that just doesn't look right. Eating Jell-O is just kind of nasty. And so
should be illegal.
It should be illegal. There's no real reason that we have yet, but it just looks nasty.
Meat.
Exactly, snails. That should be illegal. That's nasty.
Of course, I think eating meat should be illegal, but that's a different issue.
Yes, but you have reasons again for that.
I do.
You have reasons. Now, whether they're good or bad,
say they have reasons, and one of those is they'll influence the poor little children. What if these people have the right to get married, and they get married and they adopt children, or have children or whatever? Then they're going to influence the poor little children. First of all, so what?
Yeah.
What?
You're going to influence your kids to like jelly.
Right. Oh my God. And second of all, if you're going to say that, then you got to prove that the gay person's parents were gay too.
Yeah.
Because if you can influence children to be gay, I've heard cases where they take children away from someone who's a gay parent and they give it to the grandparents.
Yeah.
Okay, well, obviously if the parent is the one that grew up gay, and if there's any influence involved, then it's the grandparents' fault because they're the ones that raised the gay person.
Yeah.
So why would they take the child away from the gay person and give it to the grandparents? You're ensuring that they're going to grow up gay. But then again, so what?
And again, we do have some gay couples, I think, that are raising kids, so we could have a study done on that. Basically, how many of these kids who were raised with gay parents turned out to be gay.
99% sure there is a study out there.
And so there probably is. So if we look to that, and again, we find out that one, that is an influence, and two, it's bad for a reason, then, okay, there's a reason perhaps not to let them adopt children. That's nothing about marriage. They can still live together as much as they want. But if we could show, again, that gay couples somehow had something bad to them and they could influence their children, then we could say, okay, fine, they can adopt. But again, until you have a valid reason, there's no reason not to do it.
Yeah.
So.
But, you got to prove to people that having, I've heard plenty of people say that, well, I don't mind that they're gay, they just shouldn't have the rights of a married couple. And first of all, I don't really know, I'm not married, I don't really know that much about what are the rights of a married couple except voting rights. And no, I don't think that voting has anything to do with taxes, that's it.
Yeah.
You can file taxes.
Property also, as in, if I'm married to a woman and I die, with a will or not, my assets
things that I
automatically
talked
go
about
to
on
her.
the show last week about whether or not you have the right to,
So-
be this person's power of attorney, or whether or not you have the right to this person's stuff after they die. If you're
You
a
can
gay,
pretty easily set up documents and wills and such to
Right,
take care of that
right.
type of thing.
but I mean,
Okay. Anyway, we have got calls racked up.
yay.
We can visit this later if need be. First, we're going to go on to Chris. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, what you got for us?
Well, I've called him before,
Okay.
and about your topic, I don't have much to say about that. Why I call in is because I still don't understand why atheists need to have a show talking about their belief. I mean, I don't.
Okay.
Hold on, because I do have one comment about the topic. The woman stated that, Christians believe that, gay marriage is wrong because it's a crime against God or whatever. I know plenty of people, maybe the majority of Christians in organized religion think that, but I do know people that consider themselves Christians that don't have that point of view.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
there were a lot of
also,
Christian.
but I mean, all in all, she also said that she hangs around a lot of open-minded, liberal, atheists and stuff. But if you're an atheist, you don't believe in God, obviously. Well, is that really open-minded though? Because isn't there a chance there, just because it hasn't been proven to you that there could be a God, and to truthfully be open-minded, wouldn't you at least come to the realization, well, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I don't, because you can't say that you have everything figured out. And one thing is for sure, that there is a creative intelligence behind life on Earth, or else we wouldn't have an ecosystem and stuff like that. That kind of shows that there's a system that man can't really, he can screw it up with his own self-will. And, and plenty of them do, but that's what men do. Whereas the actual, just the fact that there is an ecosystem kind of does prove that there is really something beyond our control and our ability to,
All right,
say,
we get what you're saying here.
and-
Okay, you threw out quite a few points there. First off, why we have the show? You said that you wanted to jump on that one.
I'd like to take this one. It's a pretty easy question to answer. I mean, we don't. You asked us why we need to have the show. We don't need to have the show, but I mean, the reason we have the show is educational. I mean, we believe that people fear or are intolerant to what they don't understand, and one of the very common things to not understand is atheists. A lot of people I've talked to have never met an atheist in person, and everything they know about atheism is something they learned from their pastor. And no, we do not believe in Satan or worship Satan, and no, we are not evil, immoral people, and no, we do not, we are not closed-minded people. And so part of the point of our show is just educational. It's just, promote, I'd say promote religious tolerance, except we're not a religion, but promote tolerance towards human beings that believe a different viewpoint by exposing them to, just giving people the opportunity to call into the show, ask them all these list of questions that you just asked us, and we can answer it for you.
Well, I'm not a religious person. I'm not at all. The thing, though, is that I'm also not saying that there isn't a God or there is a God, because I don't know. I'm just a human being.
Right.
And the thing is that when I see a show like this, it reminds me of the other, the Christian broadcast and stuff like that. That it's really all those shows are doing is preaching to the choir, because you're not really going to change a religious person's mind on those things. And when if you talk about atheism, really the only people that are going to agree with you are other atheists anyway.
And the point of the show is not to make people agree with us. Although some of the other co-hosts will disagree, and I've seen some co-hosts go on the show and say, yes, our goal is to make other people think about it and eventually decide that they don't believe in God either. But that's not the targeted goal of our group. That's not one of the tenets of the atheist community of Austin. The goal of our group is educational and
promote positive atheism. It's basically outreach.
outreach.
That's
Oh,
another
yeah.
point to their show.
Right. Well, and we're to a certain extent we are preaching to the choir, but that's a good thing because there's a lot of people out there that don't know that there are other atheists out there, and they've been in the closet, and they've felt shut out. They felt like they don't have a family out there.
There are lots of people who have shown up to our meeting, and their idea, as in their family is religious, and typically around work, their coworkers are very religious, and so they're hearing "God bless you," and they're hearing, God has a plan.
What's wrong with "God bless you"?
Well, now just hang on a second. I'm getting somewhere with this. Just give me a chance. And so they've got lots and lots and lots of religious references everywhere. They're kind of sick of it. And so when all of a sudden they see that there's an atheist group out there, and they can go somewhere where they're not going to be bombarded with, religious rhetoric all the time, then that's a good thing for them. And so that's another part to the show is, again, just outreach to those people who just want a different group to hang out with. What is that?
Sure
Well, they're not really atheists, though, because...
They could be. Why not?
Well, but the thing is that if you have to go, well, all these other people believe in what I believe in, so that makes it okay to believe in it, then you really don't believe in it.
No, that's not what
Not
we're doing.
necessarily. No. That's incorrect.
Let
That
me
is
give you another
incorrect.
example.
That is incorrect.
Let me give you another example.
No, that's not. Hold on.
No.
That's not incorrect.
Yes,
it's not correct.
Wait.
Listen, I grew up
Hang
around
on.
Catholics. All my...
Go. We'll get you back on in a couple seconds.
Okay. Well, let me give you another example, okay? The thing is, it's nice to know that you have it's nice to know that you can be around other people that think the way you do. For example, one of the really big things about religion is it gives you a way to think about death. And I talked about this on the show the last time I was on. It gives you a way to think about death. When you're atheist, it's really hard to deal with death because you don't know how, because you don't believe that this person has gone on to a better place. You don't believe that this person is with God. You don't believe that God has a plan. You don't have any of these ways for dealing with death. And frankly, I was 19 years old the first time somebody close to me died. It was my grandfather. And I'm telling you, when I went around and everybody came up to me and said all of this religious propaganda, oh, he's with God now, oh, God has a reason for all this, and
Better place. And,
he's in a better place, and oh, you should be happy, blah, blah, blah. It really just made me very angry because I was hurt and I was sad, and I didn't want everybody telling me, oh, you should be happy because he's dead because of all this God stuff. And I didn't want people saying, oh, God is with you or Jesus loves you or whatever. That didn't make me feel better, but I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't have anybody around me. And as a matter of fact, we didn't even have like a funeral or memorial service where I could get together with the other people that loved my grandpa, that were mourning for my grandpa, so that we could just kind of share each other's company and feel better about the fact that we're not alone in this. And
death in general it's a hard thing to deal with, period. But we have lots and lots of examples in normal society, religious society, that say, this is how you're supposed to. This is, just looking at movies, if nothing else. This is how you deal with death.
And
you have the funeral, you have prayers, you go to the church, you trust in God and all this kind of stuff. And if you don't believe any of that, you're kind of left wondering, what am I supposed to do here? Mm-hmm. And so if I don't want to go to a church, what do I do?
How do I deal with this? Denial? Denial is a really bad way to deal with it. And that's just one example of why it's good to have a community of people around you that think like you. I mean, anybody would agree with that. Anybody that goes to church and picks a particular church that they like over any other church, or joins a youth group, or joins, whatever. That's the same reason anybody does it.
Yeah.
And that's another part of it, too. That's another part. You were saying that, we're saying that there are people out there that think they don't believe in God, and when they realize there's other people that are out there that don't believe in God also, then it's okay. And you're saying, well, they're not really atheist because they're only saying it's okay to not believe in God because there are other people out there that are saying that too. And frankly, I mean, when you live in a society where 99% of the population, 99.9% of the population around you thinks one certain way, it is the easiest route to take to just practice denial, like I was saying before, to just say, well, I guess I believe in God just because that's what my parents taught me, or I guess I believe in God just because that's what everybody's telling me, or that's what I'm hearing, or just because,
Okay. And we'll also bring one more quick point that he had mentioned, and then we'll bring you back on in just a couple of seconds. You had said atheism is potentially closed-minded because we don't believe in a God, therefore we're not accepting of the fact that there could be a God. Again, not exactly correct. I have not seen enough evidence to believe that there is a God. However, if evidence comes up later this evening, tomorrow, next year, next month, next decade, whatever, that then proves that there is a God or gives the evidence strongly shows that there could be, then sure, I'll believe. Are people closed-minded because they don't believe in unicorns or Bigfoot? I don't call that closed-minded. I call that kind of rational. If you don't have a really good reason to believe in that stuff, then there's no real point in believing it. Again, a lot of the religious people are similarly closed-minded in that there is a God, I know it, end of story, end of discussion.
And any evidence that ever comes my way,
Yeah.
to prove otherwise or to even suggest otherwise,
It's going
I'm
to
not
be
even going to
completely
look
ignored.
at.
I know. I don't want to see it. So yeah, I mean, we do look at a lot of evidence. I read a lot of Christian websites and articles and books and everything like that all the time.
Absolutely. And even my profile says there was a time in my life when I wanted to believe in God. If somebody would just show me the evidence to prove to me that there was a God, I would love to believe in God, but right now I just have no reason to believe in him. Yeah. There's a lot of atheists out there that if we're open-minded enough to say that if you showed me the evidence, I would accept it.
Exactly. Okay. All right, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to put you on hold, but like I say, got to get our piece in.
No, that's all right. That's all right. It's okay to put me on hold.
Okay.
The thing is this, though. Okay, you say, there's no evidence of God, but for a lot of religious people, maybe they do have evidence, and have you ever done what they did to try to seek it out, or are you just...
yeah.
That's what I mean.
That's what I said a couple seconds ago.
Have you ever done any of that? And I don't mean, pray for a car or something. But
no. That's what I was saying.
That's the thing. And when I said you guys were closed-minded, I didn't say it that... I'm not saying that religious people aren't closed-minded. Of course they are. But to say that 99% of the population believes in one thing, that isn't really a fact either. Because I mean, we have all kinds of different people who have different ideas of what spirituality and religion is anyway. Yeah. And it's there are a lot of good things to religion, and spirituality can help a lot of people. And that's sort of just my point that you can't.
Okay.
There's a saying.
Well, again, you're throwing out a lot of things here at us, and I'm trying to keep answering stuff.
You can't. There are a lot of positive things to spirituality.
Oh yeah.
And you cannot, if you say the forest, you're denying the beauty of the forest because a few of the trees are ugly, and that's the way I see it. I mean, you guys are totally within your right to think whatever you want. But, I mean, it really is closed-minded to say that, because at the end of your show, I've heard you say it, we don't hate you or whatever, we just think you're wrong. Yeah. You don't know that they're wrong.
Well, no, but that's why we think we are. We think they are.
We never said we don't hate you, we just know you're wrong.
They can say you're wrong, too, and that they can say that's just as truthful as your statement. And it's, I mean...
Yeah, but we've got a little bit more evidence and logic and stuff to back us up.
You don't have any evidence. They don't have any evidence. You don't have any evidence.
They don't have any evidence.
You don't either.
They're making a positive claim that God exists.
Yeah,
but yet they have not backed that up.
Hang on, evidence.
But they have not backed that up at all. They're making an empty claim.
In their life, that it's worked for them to believe in God has.
That is a separate point.
My father once told me when I used to rant and rave about atheism, he said that it's been proven that people have, that praying has helped people, and that there actually is.
And that is a separate point. And that is a separate point.
That's proof to that for them a God exists.
Okay, and that is a completely separate point.
Well, not really.
Hang on. Whether God exists or not is one thing. Whether people are helped by the belief that God exists is something completely different. Now, I understand that a lot of people get a lot of comfort from religion. people do good things because of the belief in religion. You know, they have the religious charities, and they go out and, you know, they help the elderly and the sick and whatnot. Yes, there are definitely some benefits to the belief in God. However, that doesn't then make the belief in God true. If I believe that, you know, helping people is a good thing, then that's going to make me want to do it, whether it's true or not. If I believe that if I help people, I'm going to win the lottery one day, then that's a good reason to help people. But
No,
it's not a true reason. It's going to help me. It gives me a reason. It's not a good reason. It's a faulty reason. It's not a true reason, but it's a reason.
Okay, I'll tell
So
you
that's what they're doing the same thing. They have this belief that God likes it when they do that. They will earn a place in heaven. All of this kind of stuff.
Some of them.
And some of them.
just
And
take a
so
blanket
they
statement about
they
every
are
religious
running with that.
person like that. That's sort of why I said about the closed-minded thing, that you just
Okay.
can't say, "Oh, if I do something good, I'll go to heaven."
Yeah.
Not all believe in that God.
Yeah.
Or believe it that way. I'll
Okay,
tell you
but
what,
again, we
I'll
get
say one
the
more
point
thing.
here, though.
I'll just say
Okay,
one more
well,
thing.
actually,
Actually, you've
Just
said
one
that
more
several
thing, real
times.
quick.
okay, yeah, you've said
Next
one more
time
thing, lots of
I'll call
times.
in, okay? I'll call my father and get this, because he's not religious either, just like me. I'll get the study that he shared with me. I'm not exactly sure who did it, that, you know, showed that there was actual, you know, that the people not just believing in God wasn't just, oh, it did good things or anything like that, that it actually changed them in their minds, like chemically
Yeah.
changed their brains.
Yeah.
Sure.
Again,
Absolutely.
I've
I'll
seen.
just get that study, and
Okay.
next time I call in, I'll
Okay.
talk about that.
Okay,
Absolutely.
all right.
Sure.
All right, well, thanks for
You're
taking my
welcome to
call.
do that.
Okay, thanks for
Thank
calling.
you.
Bye.
Yeah, and I have seen a lot of studies like that, and again, whether you want to go chemically based, drugs and alcohol do the same thing.
Yeah.
Belief, there's the whole thing of I can't remember the placebo effect. If you give somebody an M&M to cure their cold, a lot of times it'll work. If they don't know that it's an M&M and they think it's actually some kind of powerful drug, it works.
You can use any study to prove that a belief in something or just a way of thinking or something that's happening within your brain is going to cause any kind of somatic symptoms, you know?
Yeah.
Like I
This
did my master's
happens.
thesis. I did my master's thesis in college on stress and burnout,
Yeah.
you know? And the fact that you get really, really stressed out causes somatic symptoms. It causes people to have reduced immune systems. It causes people to get headaches a lot, stomach aches a lot.
Yeah.
It causes them to have, you know, weakened strength.
Yeah.
It can work the other way. If you believe something that gives you a lot of strength, it can actually physically give you a lot of strength. I mean, you know.
Yeah. They had a story. This was just about maybe a week or two ago. I saw it. Unrelated to atheism in any way, but I don't even think it was actually in this country, but it might have been. Some people on a bus found some like brown powder and stuff like that on the floors, and they all of a sudden started feeling wheezy. They started having chest pains, started getting sick. They like shut down the bus. They brought in, you know, the biological team. Some of them started getting sick. It turned out to be pine cones and dirt. People just assume that this is something really bad, and all of a sudden your mind takes over and starts building stuff around it that you expect that you're going to get sick because this is really bad stuff.
I mean, there's
And so
cases-
then you do get sick. And that's exactly what happened. It was just like a mass hysteria type thing over some pine cones.
I did it once, actually. I got a prescription from my doctor to give myself B12 because I'm a vegetarian,
Okay.
so to give myself B12 injections. And, you know, I'd never given myself a shot of anything before. And I did it. I gave myself a shot of B12, but I forgot to tap the needle like I've seen them do in the hospital. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I forgot to tap the needle.
Yeah.
What if I got air bubbles in my blood and
Yeah,
I'm
you're
going to
gonna
have a heart
die.
attack and die? And all of a sudden I started feeling numb in my hands. I started feeling weak and dizzy, and my roommate had a friend whose mom was a nurse, so he called her, and we were like, oh my God, do I need to go to the emergency room right away? I'm having a heart attack. And, you know, and she was like, you know what? It was like this much air bubbles. It didn't go into a vein, it went into my skin, you know, and it dispersed right away, and she was just like, there's no problem. I was like, oh, Okay, I feel better now. You know, and
Yeah, the mind is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you have a belief in God and it's going to help you out, then yeah, it's going to help you out. Very likely. So, anyway, let's go on to our next caller. We have Jose. How you doing?
Hello?
Yes, you're there.
Hey, this is Saurabh.
Oh, I'm sorry, we got our lines mixed up. Okay, what you got for us?
Just wanted to
Who?
just to comment that that there's I often tend to notice among the people who disagree with atheists and who disagree with who try to make the point that religion is valid because of so and so. There seems to be a great lack of critical thought, critical thinking, logic. Like they'll use one reason to support a certain conclusion when they really don't go together. There seems to be like an epidemic of this, and I think it correlates with people's belief. I think that when people become educated, become more able to critically think, able to perhaps even take a logic class, I think that they make these kind of mistakes less. And
I think the percentage of non-religious or atheists or whatever is much higher among college graduates than just high school graduates.
Right.
I think something like 90-some-odd% of people in I think it's the National Academy of Sciences or something like that, are all atheist, or at least agnostic. And so, yeah, more education and more training definitely does seem to correlate with.
Yeah.
And I've even seen, just the people that you meet that are more educated or spend more time talking about philosophy, or having taken philosophy classes or having spent a lot of time with people who are of an argumentative nature, the ones that go through all that and still believe in God, they stop arguing with you. They just kind of get to the point where they're like, I'm not going to explain it to you.
Right.
I believe there's a God because I have this feeling, but I can't prove it.
They say that, well,
And I'm not gonna
this
try.
is my experience, and that's
Right.
your experience, and
Exactly.
we can live together, agree to disagree, and
Exactly.
we can be civil, and I'm not going to shove anything down your throat.
Exactly.
And,
They're much more
I've thought for
accepting,
myself,
if nothing
etc.
else.
I mean, that would be a very pleasant society to live in. Unfortunately,
absolutely.
that's not the case with many of the proselytizing faiths out there that feel like they need to convert people or feel like they need to, they call it spreading the good news.
Yeah.
And sometimes the news is faulty at best.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the good news is there is no God. You're not going to hell.
Well, that's really good news. I mean, but I do have to say though that the last caller, I do agree with this sense of spirituality where one introspection, depth of thought, consideration for others. Things like that. I think that those things are important, and if training one's mind to be thoughtful, to be calm, I guess. I think that promotes peace. It promotes freedom. I think those things are valuable, and although I personally, I guess I would be more of an agnostic rather than an atheist, but although I am, tend to be more atheist, I still believe that there is great value in some of the practices of, for example, the Buddhist faith of meditation and yoga and things like that. I think there's great value in that, and one thing I do find that I don't know if it's atheists in general or most atheists are not like this or are like this. I'm not sure, but. Sometimes what I find with atheists is that because they don't believe in God or something like that, they also they might make the mistake of negating valuable practices or
throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, and going back again, which I'm starting to talk about obsessively with the issue about death, is a lot of atheists, and my grandparents were guilty of this. They're they're atheists, and so their reaction to death was just to throw the whole process out altogether. Say, we're not going to have a funeral, we're not going to have a burial service, we're not going to have a memorial service because, this. If you wanted to say anything to this person before they died, you should have done it before they died. Right. Now it's too late. We're not going to do anything ceremonious.
And I don't think that's...
ceremonies are very important. Right. Not so that you can say goodbye to the dead person who's dead and they can't hear you anymore, but so that you can, be together.
For the surviving people, I think it's like emotionally or psychologically a good thing. It promotes, healing. There is such a thing as emotional hurts, and I think that when someone dies and those who survive are in pain, I think that it's important for them to, have some sort of a method of coming together and helping each other live, become happy again. It's a form of healing. It's mental health, and exactly. I think that to just throw out funerals and things like that because it's a religious thing or it's a ceremony, it's a ritualistic thing may not be necessarily the best way to go about this. Perhaps there's a middle ground somewhere where there would be some sort of a gathering, a function, a party of some kind where the deceased would be spoken of fondly or the surviving relatives would come together and support one another, something like that.
And I would say that that's another really, really good reason to have an atheist group. I mean, people don't understand it. They say, well, if you're an atheist community, then therefore you're a religion and you're basing this group based on a non-belief or whatever. But I mean, having an atheist group gives us the opportunity to get together and have parties because we don't celebrate Christmas, but it's still nice to have an excuse to get together with your family once a year and exchange presents and just celebrate and eat lots of food and have fun. And
yes, and being atheists, we're still part of the community. I mean, we still enjoy Christmas time, although we don't believe.
We have a solstice party every year.
The birth of Jesus,
You're in Jesus, but we enjoy the gift giving and the exchanges.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not something that we don't enjoy, or we have also grown up in the society, and we're not gonna abandon it, and we are not going to hopefully we're not going to be abandoned either.
Yeah, we try and take the view that again, religions do have something to offer. They give people a lot of hope, and just the things like just social
ceremonies,
being able to meet up with other people and meet other folks.
Go to church.
That's a big part of the ACA is just social outreach and just having a social group, get together once, twice a week and just play games or whatever.
Yeah, I think some of the callers when they see a show such as yours, I think that they might see it like they're in our face. They're telling us what to believe or something like that. When
we're in their face once a week for an hour and a half on a public access channel
across the entire nation,
almost in the nicest way possible too. I know some of the atheists are a little bit more in your face, like more kind of sort of just kind of
but I mean, for every atheist that's in your face, there's 1,000 Christians that are in our face.
Yeah, I mean,
there are entire religious networks.
It's highly hypocritical, I think, for a religious person to call this show and say, "Oh, what are you doing?" When there are 1,000 other other religious shows out there that are telling you, vile things like you're going to go to hell if you don't believe, or you can save yourself now if you don't call this number now, you're not going to be saved.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, save this prayer with us.
Donate $5 to us right now, then you're going to go to hell.
Right.
And that's a big difference too. Is a lot of people claim that they're preaching Christianity and God in the name of love, but they use so much fear and hatred to do it. I mean, we have a friend from the atheist group that moved to Arkansas, and she said she was driving around Arkansas and she came up behind a big truck that had a bumper sticker on it that said, "Real men fear Jesus."
Wow.
It strikes me also the biblical depiction of Jesus, what he was purported to have said or done for the poor. I mean, he would be considered in today's world, a communist or certainly very much of a bleeding heart liberal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's ironic that it's the most conservative who among Americans, I guess, among the Christians who are claiming that they follow Jesus' teachings and things like that.
Okay.
Well,
all right.
Anyway, well, thank you for having me on.
Yes,
Call
thank
back
you very much
Thanks
for
for
calling.
calling.
So, have a good weekend.
Bye. You too.
All right.
A lot of really good issues.
Also, it seemed like there was one other thing, but I can't remember what it is now, so forget it. On to Steve. How you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good.
What you got for us?
Listen, listening to those first two callers, I lump all of that stuff into positive affirmation, regardless of whether you use a God or anything.
Okay.
If you wake up every morning and say, I'm a good person, and I'm going to go out and do good things, that's basically the same thing. If you wake up and you say, I'm going to cure this cancer, you may not cure it, but boy, you got a better chance than the person that walks around going, "Oh, it's me."
Yeah.
But what I called in was I'm against gay marriage because I don't think it's fair to single people. I think that we subsidize married people, and the argument is, they want to have a kid, and it costs more, so we have to subsidize, the families. And I'm not talking about gay people that have kids, that raise kids, because they get subsidies too, on their income tax and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just as a single person, I'm looking at it as why should I pay extra taxes so this person can pay less?
And that was another thing that we had is just...
But you can make that argument. I mean, if you're going to make that argument, it doesn't make any sense to say that's why gay people shouldn't get married.
Yeah, that's an argument
that's
against...
why nobody should get married.
The legal of how we deal with marriages now is incorrect, perhaps. And so we need to adjust that.
True.
But if a man and woman can get married and have certain benefits or whatever, then a man and a man should be able to get married and have those same benefits. Or if there are no benefits to marriage, then no benefits across the board.
Well,
but if you're arguing that marriage laws are currently faulty, and there are reasons that I would say that you're right, then we need to deal with that. We can't say that, let's protect the gay community by not letting them get married.
Or let's let the gay community get married, but let's not give them the tax break.
Yeah, but then again, I would argue the same thing that straight couples should be in the same position. They shouldn't have the benefits or whatever, or the drawbacks to marriage either. I don't think
the way I see it is, if you open up a can of worms like that, then you're getting to the point where it's like, if I marry a rock, I should be able to get extra benefits, or I could, marry a tree and get the extra benefits.
They had that little girl in India that married a dog.
Oh, yeah. But that was for some kind of strange religious thing.
That was
like
to overcome a bad omen.
Yeah.
Marry some of the cockroaches running
Some
across my
people
floor.
do that. I don't know. I think Queen Elizabeth got married to England so that people would stop pressuring her to get married, so that there wouldn't be a man so that there could be.
Okay,
they had that movie. They had that movie Elizabeth that came out a couple years ago that was all about that. She married herself to England or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'm a single person, and I pay taxes. And honestly, as it stands right now, if my taxes are going to be going towards married people, I think that gay people should have just as much right to those taxes. But you're right. I shouldn't be having to pay for all those married couples out there. But that doesn't have to do with whether or not they're gay or straight. I just shouldn't have to give my money to any of them.
Yeah. That's true.
You got to pick one or the other. You cannot split hairs like that.
Well, the other thing was that, if y'all started a church of atheism, then called yourself a religion, shouldn't y'all get all the tax breaks?
Yeah, right. We'd get the tax breaks of being a religious
organization. We have talked about that, actually, and part of it, some of the groups I know haven't done that simply because they're essentially taking a stand, saying, we are not a religion. And, we get that a lot from a lot of callers saying that y'all are just another religion then. Well, no, we're not. And so that's a big reason why, we may not do something like that, is to say,
I don't know. I think if George Bush passes all of his faith-based funding, we're going to have to start rethinking that.
True, perhaps. But part of it is, just a stance to say, no, we are not a religion.
Well,
therefore, we're not going to apply for that.
That's a good stance to take. But like I say, if they cut off your funding, I'm sure you can get a lawyer that will probably give you all kinds of tax breaks to do it the same way. Yeah, I called about a week ago, and I was talking about God not being consciousness. I don't know if you remember that.
Okay.
It really bothers me when people get down on the Bible, because the first thing they say is that, well, y'all believe that God is this big, white-haired guy sitting on a throne up beyond the stars. I'm like, no, I don't. And then they say, well, what about all the things they say about Jesus? And I'm like, there's no proof to me that Jesus was a man. There's no proof to me that the prophets were actually people. And I've read lots of stories, in old history, about people that never existed or that were used to convey, an aspect of our life. Like in Greek mythology, there wasn't really a goddess of love, but you put all of whatever each of us have about, emotional love, into a particular object and call, him or her the goddess of love. So that when people criticize the Bible, I'm always looking at them going, listen, you're not being logical. First of all, you're accepting what the people that you're against are saying about it. If you take all that out, and read it as an allegory, most of it makes sense. Treat other people the way you want to be treated. Instead of, love God with all your heart and mind, just, love the predicament you're in with all their heart and mind, because it's the one you got and life's pretty good.
Yeah.
And all the stories tend to make sense. And that's the one thing that I do have against atheists or against some atheists, is because they preach logic and then turn around and use the enemy's logic, use the religious arguments. And I'm like, no, if you're against them, on one point, you should be against them on all those points, and sit there and say, hey, listen, if this was just a book on how things were back then, in a simpler time.
I disagree. I mean, because I think that, again...
Well, name a story of the Bible that you think is wrong, that just can't make any sense.
Job?
What?
Job?
Job. Book of Job.
The Book of Job? Well, there's some unlucky people out there that go through life, and then just one thing bad happens after another, and when they go to the doctor or the psychologist, or to their friends or to their family, you sit there and you go, hey, buck up, keep going on, I know it looks bad, but...
The story about Abraham going up the hill to kill his son, and so he was going to kill his son because God told him to, and he was just about to kill him, and then God said, wait, no, kill this goat instead. And honestly, what did the goat do?
Well, what if they weren't people? What if it was just, what if it wasn't his son? What if it was something else that he was trying to portray?
That you have enough family to murder your own child.
A lot of it's so deep. It's like John M. Allegro's book, The Sacred Cross and the Mushroom, which goes deeply into,
It's got some interesting thoughts to that.
Yeah, I mean, but basically what that says is, way back before jet airplanes and everything else, basically what did we have? We had animals, plants, people. The only thing that was important was more animals, more plants, more people,
more
and
stuff.
it was the things that they brought up and the things that they talked about. Some things they felt probably was better left not mentioned to the general public, so they had to write it in allegorical ways, and you read it that way, and I'm not saying that is. I've heard so many people come up with so many codes about how the Bible what it really meant. But what I'm saying is that when you take all of them into perspective and you read through it, you can find, hey, maybe there's a little bit of truth to this, maybe there's a little bit of truth to that.
Sure, I agree with that. If you take the pure message, I mean, like I was saying before, I believe that people have religion in their lives because they need to have religion in their lives. I believe that religion serves a very strong purpose for a lot of people. It helps them find hope. It helps them answer questions that would otherwise just drive them crazy. And I think that being said, every single religion has some good tenets to it. I think that, in the Sikh religion, because they believe in reincarnation, they don't want to hurt any animal because you might come back as that animal and the same karmic thing will happen to you. But I believe it's true. You should not hurt other animals, other species. You should respect every living thing on this earth in the best way that you can. I believe that in Christianity, love thy neighbor as thyself. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I believe that in Judaism, the kosher laws were they weren't about, this thing is unholy and that thing's not unholy. They were about basic sanitation because they didn't have refrigeration back then. They didn't have ways of cooking things at, 250, 350 degrees until they were purified and different ways of processing foods. I think that every religion has a reason that they came up with these stories that have good principles to them. And because of that, I don't think that as atheists we should say all or none. Either you believe in God and you accept everything that the Bible has to tell you, or you don't believe in God and you accept none of it. Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you that because I don't believe in God, I think it's okay to kill people.
Well, I think everybody that uses religion for a power base, not for any other reason but than a power base, is going to use religion in a wrong way. You buy a gun and you're going to use it to get over on your buddy. Yeah. Guns are bad and you should be anti-gun. Yeah. If you're, out in the middle of nowhere and you're starving to death and you're shooting an animal so you can cook it and eat it, well, then guns seem to be pretty good things. And then you have, other examples like that. But I feel that religion, by extrapolating all this spirituality, it's not good. I think that what it is that you, if you took the mysticism out of religion, it wouldn't be religion, and it would probably be good because there'd be a lot of books out there written by a lot of people that would say, hey, we found out if you don't eat this type of stuff, you don't get this type of cancer. Hey, we found out that if you live monogamous relationships your whole entire life, there's a whole lot of problems that you can avoid. But it's that because the powers that be have the most TVs or the most TV stations, the stuff that you hear is totally hogwash, like die for God, and we have this myth in our brain that all the Arabs over in Saudi Arabia and Iraq are just ready to throw their lives away for God. And I'm sure we have just as many people over in this country that are willing to do it as over there. And the reason I'm against, religion is that it is taught as a mysticism, and it's not taught as, hey, these are really old rules that have been around for a long time. This is the stuff that you hear everybody's mother and father say a million times while you're growing up. Yeah. And because then religion becomes irrelevant. If it's stuff that we already know, why need to go to church and put $10 in the tithing booth? Well, I think the reason is because there's a lot of stuff about human nature that is that's not great. I mean, if we were all just totally logical, then none of us would probably smoke cigarettes. Yeah. If there was like tons of, there are certain laws out there that are basically like, listen, you're just too immature to handle crack cocaine. Yeah. I don't care how smart you are or how logical you are. There are certain drugs out there that can just flat knock you over. Yeah. And when people say, well, why? And you say, well, because God told me so. Then that immediately negates the argument. Whereas if you sit there and you say, well, why? Well, I sit there and I'll show you these studies that were done. Exactly. And, and explain it that way. So, I mean, we're living in a country where the lawyers make laws to make more money, where the doctors, prescribe medicine and do operations, not for the patient so much as for them to, make more money. And as long as it's a money and there should be alarms go off immediately in everybody's head whenever anybody says something that requires, you to give up something and them to get it.
Yeah, your omnipotent God really needs your $10.
Really needs your $10. So if you're, it's that to really teach atheism, you have to really teach the reasons why religion was set up that way, and also why there are certain things we keep from the public.
And part of the reason
you don't want your kids. There's people out there that just go out of their way not to teach their kids.
And we do that to a certain extent, but a large part of the show is to try and show this is what atheism is. Here's what we don't believe in. Here's the logical reasons why we don't believe it. There are, in addition, practical reasons and reasons that you should be very wary of the church, for instance. But there's more to it than just, the church is a really messed up organization. That's why you shouldn't believe. Because that's not a logical argument. There can still be a God. The church can still be right and be corrupt.
Yeah.
They're not, but they could be. And so we're trying to argue why they're incorrect. And here are logical and practical reasons why the belief in a God is faulty at its base.
Yeah, but
beyond that, I think that's what atheism does, is we look at the world, the whole world, and everything that's in it, any kind of idea or belief or creation or whatever that comes into it, and we take out the spirituality and the mysticism and, the invisible beings, and we look at the humanity, we look at the philosophy, we look at the logic, and we look at the science, and we create our world based on that. We look at everything that everybody else on the planet looks at. We just take away the mysticism.
Yeah.
Well, I like what you're doing, but what I'm saying is you're preaching to the choir. A lot of the stuff you say. Because you got to realize your audience. A lot of your audience is probably like-minded people.
Well, a lot of them are also very religious, too.
And some are very religious, but
a lot of our audience is people that probably watch our show because they need to hear some of this in a world filled with a lot of fundamentalism, in a world filled with a lot of, right-wing religious policy, in a world where all of this, end of days stuff keeps being talked about. And the ones that we're preaching to the choir, we're serving a function for them. We're serving the fact that they need to take a break from all that other stuff, and they need to listen to us for a little while. If we're preaching to the choir, it's because they want to hear what we have to say. But not all of them are that. The majority of our callers are people that have never heard of an atheist before. I've never met an atheist before, and they're like, "What? Who are you, and why are you doing this?
This is the first time they've ever seen the show."
And that's the other function that we serve, is we sit here on the show and we say, well, yeah, I'm here, I'm an atheist, ask me whatever you need to ask me and I'll answer it, and then maybe you'll stop thinking I'm a bad guy.
Well,
with that, we are going to go ahead and let you go. Okay. Like we do have other callers waiting, so. But thanks a lot for calling in. All right. Anyway, before we get on to our next caller, we do have one or two things that we want to do really quickly. He had mentioned gay marriage at the beginning of the call, and we had the table at the Gay Pride today, the festival down there. We had some ACA members manning that, and we do have a small clip of that, which I think we are trying to get ready. And so if we can somehow get that rolling, perhaps. I don't know if we can do that. Okay, and we are getting blackness. So, all right, we're going to try and get that video going. Okay, before we do that, hopefully we can get it going. This is something that we've got coming up in a couple weeks. It's Stonewall 35, an ACA celebration at Monkey Wrench Books. I'm just going to kind of read a couple excerpts from this because I don't have it memorized. This is on June 25th. On Friday, June 25th at 7 p.m., the atheist community of Austin returns to Monkey Wrench Books to celebrate the 35th anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising, historically seen as the beginning of the modern gay movement. At our event, we will be screening a controversial movie adaptation of Gore Vidal's novel, Myra Breckinridge. And so that is going to be, again, 7 o'clock, June 25th, Monkey Wrench Books, which is 110 East North Loop. And this event is free and open to anyone who wants to come down. Are we going to be able to run that video? Do we believe? Let's try and see. Again, this is the Gay Pride booth that we had today at Fiesta Gardens. Hopefully. And I think, okay, all right. Well, apparently we are not going to be having that today. Maybe we'll have it next week. We'll try and work this out. Sometimes we have a little bit technical difficulties getting these things ready. Anyway, we are going to go on to Drew. How you doing?
Hey, hi Karen, hi Ashley.
Hello.
Hello.
And yes. Okay, we are very sorry about that. And apparently, whoa, all our lines just went kerflooey. But Drew, you're still on the line?
Okay.
Okay, good.
Cool. Hey, Karen.
Sorry about that.
First of all, that last guy who called in talking about his views on gay marriage and things.
Okay.
It
Also,
drives me up the
just
wall.
a quick second before you get
Sure.
going, can we get a little more volume on the speaker, please? Just sorry, we're having
Okay.
very low volume in here. We have a hard time hearing you. Okay, you can go on. Sorry.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Sorry.
The last guy who called in, his views on gay marriage, it drives me up the wall when people say if gay marriage is ever official in this country. I should say same-sex marriage. Mm-hmm. But when people say if it's ever passed as a law or something like that, then people are going to want to marry goats and chickens and 5 and 6 other people.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense at all. That's really twisted thinking. But
again, it's trying to bolster support by just going down the slippery slope of assuming we do this, then anything is legal.
Right, it's all based on fear.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's ridiculous.
If it's suddenly legal, I'll want to marry a rock.
Yeah.
And
The only reason I don't want to marry one right now is because it's not legal.
And every straight person is going to start marrying their same sex, and we're all going to stop procreating, and all hell's going to break.
Yeah, and we have had that. Actually, we have I think it came up on the no, it was actually our normal atheist list. We have a discussion list among members of the group. And somebody got on there and was arguing that if all of a sudden gay marriage is allowed, then the population will start going down because everyone will start, marrying. Men will marry men, women will marry women.
Yeah.
And this guy was married to a woman, and it's like, dude, are you going to get a divorce and then marry some guy just because you legally can?
Yeah.
I'm
Honestly,
not gay. I don't plan on marrying another guy if it becomes legal.
We're having a population problem anyway. I don't think we're at risk of becoming extinct anytime soon, but we might get ourselves under control a little bit so that we don't eventually, take over the entire planet like a virus,
Right.
like they say in The Matrix.
But that wasn't the reason I was calling, but that just set me off. It drives me crazy when people say stupid things like that.
Yeah.
But my call is about faith. And I'm just curious about whether you as atheists have faith in anything, because faith is something that people have that they can't see in another, like love or some other some other thing you can't see.
Yeah. How do you define faith? I guess. What are your examples?
In religious terms, like a faith in God, a faith in
some kind of higher.
Well, if your
power?
definition of faith is a faith in God, then I don't have faith.
Well, yeah, that's what I
depends.
understand.
It depends on exactly where you're going with that, but the general idea that in a higher power.
Yeah.
Faith, the definition I've usually heard is it's belief in something despite the fact that there is no evidence for it. And that is something that I would hope that we don't. I'd prefer not to have faith. I would rather base my assumptions and the way I live my life on actual evidence and things that I know exist or have a good possibility of existing. Just believing something just because doesn't seem like a really good idea for me. Now, the fact that you can't touch and hold something isn't a good reason not to believe in it. I can't touch and hold a galaxy. Air. I can't do it with air exactly. But you know, there's demonstrable evidence that it's out there. You mentioned love. I can't, you know, you can't put that in a vial or anything.
Right.
But it's still something that it affects it affects people. And so, again, that's something that, I know it exists. Again, it's not something that you can, you know, test with, but it's but emotions are real. So yeah, I mean, I know that they exist, but again, that's not faith, because again, there's evidence out there that such things do exist.
You know, I've heard people talk about the movie Dogma, and my brother's one of these. He says the thing that drives him the most crazy about the movie Dogma is the fact that in the end of the movie they say, "So how's your faith now?" You know, after they've stood there in front of God and talked to her, and held her hand, and, you know,
at that point you don't need
and they say,
faith.
"How's your faith now?" Well, it's not faith anymore. That's the difference between Gnosticism and agnosticism. Is if you know there's a God because you've stood there and talked to God and you know, seen God in the flesh, so to speak. Then it's not faith anymore, and I think you could pretty easily say that no, I don't really have faith in anything. I mean, I believe. I believe in love because I see it happening around me. I don't necessarily have faith that I will ever fall in love because it hasn't happened yet, but I like to think that I might someday. You know, I believe that. You could say I have faith in the idea that over the next couple of centuries, science is going to discover a lot more about where the world came from and how the universe came to be and where existence comes from. But I'm not basing that on faith. I'm basing that on the fact that over the last couple of centuries, we have discovered a whole lot about the way the universe works, and I don't think that we're close to being finished yet. You know, so. I don't know. I would probably say that more likely than not, I don't really have faith in anything. I believe in a lot of stuff and I have a lot of hope, but I base most of that on any evidence that I've seen or any trends or patterns that have happened around me.
Okay. Well, I was just curious, what your views were on faith. So that was it. So.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, thanks a lot for calling.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, let's go on to, we'll find out exactly who we're going to go on to, but we're going to go on to, I believe, Tom.
My question.
Okay. Yeah, Tom, is that you? Is anybody there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what do you got for us?
Well, I got a question for you.
All right.
My question is, how long would it be able for you guys to stop attacking everything that we believed in the way you don't believe, without no faith?
Okay.
You're going to die.
A couple points. One, you've called in about 13 different times into different shows, all under different names. You're getting good at coming up with different names. Two, we don't actually attack any beliefs here. We point out that it doesn't make sense, that there's no logical reason that we have found, at least, to believe in God. Now, if somebody wants to present one, I'm all for it. I want to hear about it. But as it stands today, I haven't heard any good evidence for it, and so I don't believe it.
And three, when you stop attacking us.
Because
a lot of our attacks are self-defense.
Why can't you stop attacking the evidence of there is a Jesus Christ in the flesh?
Okay, what evidence is that?
And you're denying it.
Jesus is still tromping around somewhere?
No, are you?
You said
yeah, I am. Again, what evidence do you have for this?
The evidence is in the Bible.
Okay, but that's a book.
That is evidence.
There are Calvin and Hobbes books out there. They're not evidence that, a
Calvin
kid somewhere
and Hobbes really exist.
has that they exist, or that Calvin and Hobbes, that there's a talking tiger out there.
Are you a pagan?
No.
No?
I believe you are.
Well, you can believe whatever you want.
Which is the point. That's exactly our point. You can believe whatever
but if you're going to try
want.
and tell us what we believe.
Shut up, Madam O'Hare.
What is that?
That's a good thing to do, isn't it?
To do what? I'm sorry?
Shut up, Madam O'Hare.
No, she had opinions and expressed them.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
generally a good thing.
Really?
I don't agree with religious people.
Let's teach everybody else.
I don't
there is
agree
no
with a lot of
God
religious people.
because of your stupid answers.
I don't necessarily agree with a lot of religious people, but I think they have a right to express their opinions, and if they think that they have a handle on the truth, if they know that there is a God and that you should really believe in him because you're going to go to hell otherwise, they should be able to get out there and promote that belief. I mean, it's natural. If I think that I have the right idea, that's education. They have a right to do that, and I think they should be able to. We also have the right to say, we think you're nuts. So, and that's what we're doing with a lot of religious folks.
And, you know, a lot of people call into the show, and honestly, I never even heard of Madeline Marie O'Hare until I moved to Texas, but a lot of people call into the show and they say things like, oh, you're an atheist, therefore you must think exactly the same way Madeline Marie O'Hare thinks, and you must be a bitter and cynical and angry person. And, you know, I hear a lot of religious people saying that to atheist people, that all atheists are the same. But when we call all Christians the same, they get very defensive. So, you know, if you're not going to believe that you believe the exact same thing as every other Christian out there in the entire planet, then you have no evidence to show that all atheists think the same. We don't. And you can see that just based on this one little tiny TV show where we have 4 different co-hosts and you know, one host, and the 5 of us have a lot of different things to say. We all represent different opinions. We all represent different faces of atheism.
Yeah. All right. Let's go on to a couple more callers. Again, we have 15 minutes left. We are live today. We do have repeats every Tuesday from 4:30 to 6 on Channel 10. But again, every Sunday, we are live. And just on that note, actually next week, Jeff D is going to be on. He's going to be our co-host next week. So should be a lot of fun. Anyway, let's go on to Steve. What you got for us?
Oh, hi. Actually, I was calling about what would you consider to be evidence for you of the existence of God?
We've had that one a couple times. I have a hard time answering that because I'm not sure. There are evidence of God. One, I would like to see some form of actual physical evidence in the sense of I'm into astronomy.
A fingerprint.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'm into astronomy. If all the stars all of a sudden one night form themselves together to say, you know, hello, stupid people, I exist. That would be somewhat compelling. You know, if it was verifiable and everybody around the world saw the same kind of things and it wasn't just, you know, some weird thing in my head that I saw.
Yeah, but couldn't that just be delusion?
It could be, yes. And so that's why, in addition to that, I would like to have a lot of the questions that I have answered. Assume we'll go with the Bible as being, you know, let's say that's the God that came forward and said, yes, I'm the one. I'd want to know the story of the flood. Is that true?
Yeah, but even that, I mean, the Bible might be just complete, you know, just one thing. It may not even be even remotely close to what God is all about.
Yeah, and so, again, I'd want to know more about this God, because if he did show himself in some way, what is the difference, I assume, between a God and some really advanced alien species that can do this kind of stuff? Is a God, what makes me think that I should get down and just worship this being? Well, I don't see any logical reason why any self-respecting person should worship any other being.
I mean, I agree with you there, but I do think that those are two different issues.
Okay.
They are.
Yeah.
Just, you know, I've just been thinking that I don't think that there could be an objective test for the existence of God, because there's always, however remote, a possibility that there's just, you know, a more advanced civilization that is just manipulating us somehow.
Yeah.
But again, you're asking the difference between knowing that there's a God and believing that there's a God. I mean, here's the thing. A lot of people call into the show and they ask us, what's the difference between being an agnostic and being an atheist? quite frankly, I believe that the majority of the human beings on the planet are either agnostic atheists or agnostic theists, because being agnostic, Gnostic is, I guess, the Latin word for no, and being agnostic means you don't know. You don't know, but you believe that there's a God. You don't know, but you believe that there is no God. In order for me to believe that there was a God, I agree. There'd have to be some kind of physical evidence. God, write your name in the sky. Or God, make the sea split in half in front of me. I mean, all these people in the Bible that claim that they were God-fearing, God-loving, God servants of God people in the Bible, the Bible doesn't have anybody working on faith. They have people working on the fact that the Red Sea parted in half, that their staff turned into a snake and the rivers turned to blood. If we saw any of that stuff happening today, I might be a little bit more inclined to believe that there was a God out there. But right now, I don't see that.
Excuse me. I mean, I have a problem with that. I just think that the argument is a non-starter, and unfortunately, I mean, I hear that argument from y'all a lot. That we need an evidence of a God. My opinion is that there can never be sufficient evidence, because there's always the remote possibility. So I mean,
well, there's always a remote possibility.
Myself, by the way,
I understand your point that there's a remote possibility, and there will always be people who latch onto that and say it can't be true. It can't be true. Holocaust deniers. There's a lot of evidence out there that the Holocaust actually happened, but there's a few people out there who say, yeah, well, those are fake pictures, and that was all Hollywood, and it wasn't really that many people. Let's get serious here.
Well,
so there are people who deny that. Just like if all of a sudden we were living in Old Testament times where God was constantly at works doing something or other in the world, then again, if I saw a lot of evidence pointing in the direction that a God must exist, then okay, God must exist. Now, is that perfect 100% proof? No. Do I have perfect 100% proof that Japan exists? No. Pretty good evidence. But it's not.
Again,
but it's not
the difference
definite.
Between being an agnostic theist and a Gnostic theist. If I walked across a bush that was burning but wasn't being consumed, I would probably believe in God. I wouldn't try and prove to anybody that I knew for a fact beyond a doubt that there was a God, but I would probably start telling people that I believe in God. Because I happened to walk across a bush that was burning and wasn't being revealed. Why did God used to reveal himself to people all the time and now he doesn't anymore? What changed?
Well, yeah, but I was just approaching this from a different perspective, and all I'm saying is I think that, at least where I'm concerned, my foundation for atheism doesn't involve evidence at all. It involves more non-believing of whatever people are putting out, as their faith. I can't believe in certain things, but it doesn't mean that that God doesn't exist, whatever. Anyway, I was just commenting on sort of like the foundations of atheism and the fact that for me at least, it doesn't rest on the foundation of the existence or non-existence of evidence. It just exists that I'm just not willing to accept, just whatever people say, is evidence. Like you're saying, whether it be Christian or Muslim or Jewish or whatever it is, Greek.
And you can typically go after, Egyptian. And you can go after religions and theistic beliefs in lots and lots of different ways. Again, the problem of evil is a direct, I don't want to call it attack, but it's a line of thinking that says, look, this God that you have set down before us, that cannot exist because of these reasons here.
Oh,
I can say that, look, again, let's stick with the Bible just because we know that one. There are a lot of stories in the Bible that God cannot be a good person. That God cannot be a moral being because of all these different stories, the lack of reasons for, killing everybody in the world, that type of thing. I can, if you want to argue things like that, then I can do that.
Yeah.
If you would just want to say, look, there's just, God's everywhere. Well, no, he's not. Give me some evidence that he exists.
Right. I mean, I've had a lot of people,
you can go a lot of different ways.
They try so hard to prove to you that God exists that they will change the definition until you can't deny that doesn't exist. So a lot of people will say to me, you see that tree over there? That's God. Can you deny that tree exists? I'm like, no, but I have no reason to believe that tree is God.
All I'm saying
is I call it a tree.
all I'm saying is I think that as atheists we have to be careful of saying that we need evidence, because in my opinion, and I'm not a philosopher, but in my opinion, we can never have evidence because there's always the remote possibility. So I think that all I'm saying is I think that we need to rest our foundation of atheism on other pillars rather than just that. Mm-hmm. And that's all I'm saying.
Well, there are a lot of things out there, but is that not going back to what some other callers called closed-minded?
Yeah.
You know, how much evidence do you need, you know, that God exists or doesn't exist or whatever?
All I'm saying is from a rational point of view, there can be no evidence because there's always a possibility that it's just us being, you know, our mind is being manipulated. So it's a non-starter argument.
But then again, it's you know, it could be your mind's being manipulated into believing that the Holocaust and World War II existed. Were you actually there?
The world exists.
Yeah, I mean,
the Twin Towers ever existed.
Yeah, who says that we're not living in the Matrix? It's a possibility, a pretty slim one, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, but it's kind of remote, you know.
Yeah. So if God were coming down and every single day he was doing some kind of miraculous event around the world,
yeah, but we're not, you know,
then
there's a big
wouldn't that be
between
a lot of evidence that he exists? There's still there's still room for doubt, but it's kind of getting into the realm of being ridiculous to doubt it.
Well, I mean, I see your point to an extent, but I think there's a big difference between the creator or, you know, creators of the entire universe and, you know, the Holocaust, however horrible it may be.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's definitely a difference. But again, just going back to the fact of God's existence, again, if we had miracles every single day around the world, and there was no explanation that anybody could come up with for any of these except for God, and God was out there, you know, trumpeting his voice and talking to people and being very open and, you know, coming down and doing, you know, coming on Jerry Springer or whatever, that would be good evidence. And so that's something where you'd start saying, well, it's starting to make more sense to believe than not believe.
Yeah,
he couldn't do that because then it would take away the mysticism of the whole thing, and then we'd have no reason to worship him anymore.
Yeah, but I think that I bet you everybody wouldn't even agree with that. The believers wouldn't even agree with it.
Oh, I'm positive of that. Yeah, I'm
positive. Anyway, they make movies about that, like the movie Stigmata. I mean, my favorite thing about those religiously ironic movies is that it's always the atheist that becomes the believer, and it's always like the Pope or you know, the Vatican that denies that any of this stuff is going on and refuses to believe it and does everything they can to cover it up.
Exactly.
I love that. I think that's just brilliant with irony.
I like how every time you get a news story out there saying somebody survived this disaster, or they won the lottery, or, you know, they found their grandmother's wedding ring, you know, grown inside a potato or something like that. They say, my God, you know, this was God that did this. God has blessed me or something like that. And everybody's like, yeah, that's an amazing story and thank God for you. But then as soon as God does something a little bit weird and says, kill your kids, or, you know, go run into the hills of Nevada and, you know, throw away all your money, that person's just nuts. Right. That wasn't God. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's always kind of weird that if it's good, God had a hand in that. If it's bad, God can't do that. You're just nuts.
What's that movie that Jeff had us all see, where this guy believes he's on a mission from God to kill all the demons?
I want to say Memento for some reason, but I know that's not it. Frailty.
Frailty. Oh, see,
that's a good movie.
That's a good movie.
Okay, I'll have to look at it.
That makes you think. I mean, some of these movies that make you think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Stigmata, I mean, The Matrix, Frailty, I mean, these movies, they just really make you think about religion.
Now, what if this were true? Yeah. What kind of implications would that have? Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you guys are great. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, thanks a lot for calling.
Bye.
All right, we still have a couple minutes left. We got
a minute and a half here.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and take a quick call here and see what this is. Get cut off in
the middle of it.
Edward, what you got for us?
Hey, I would like to know, do y'all believe in evil?
Yes. With a capital E or a lowercase e?
Define evil. Do bad things happen in the world? Absolutely.
But like evil as in what they
as in Satan?
The devil's work.
No.
Do bad things happen in the world?
It happens every day in like so many ways.
Okay. Yeah, I absolutely believe in evil with a lowercase e. I mean, I could tell you all the things I think are evil. I think guns are evil. I think that the NRA is evil. I think that George Bush is evil. With a capital E, no, I don't believe in the devil. I don't believe in Satan.
What about
I don't believe there are forces.
the movie The Passion of the Christ. What if that was based on an actual events?
Well, then that really sucks for that guy.
Yeah.
It would, huh?
That doesn't prove that he's an immortal being, created
God,
the world,
God,
but that really sucks for him.
Prove himself, like as he wouldn't have to prove himself that he exists, because he wouldn't just wouldn't have to.
Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna have to let you go. We've only got a couple seconds left in the show, but thanks for calling.
Thank you.
And as for everybody else, if you got any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that for us, tv@atheist-community.org. You can go ahead and write us, and we will respond to all emails. And some of the good ones will...
Constructive criticism.
Exactly. Snide remarks, anything like that, go ahead and send them in. Anyway, hope everybody has a great week. Thank you, Karen, for being co-host, and we'll see you next week.